everyone. This is Paul Finck, the Maverick Millionaire, and this is the Maverick Do It Different podcast. This is where we think different, are different, do different to create a different world, a different atmosphere, a different environment for all of us to engage at a different level, to create the life of our dreams. And today I've got a special guest who is here to talk about exactly how to create some of those dreams right in your business. Did you know that 80% of the carefully crafted checklists, blueprints, and ebooks that you may have been using to attract your ideal clients are never actually opened after they are downloaded? I know it's scary, and yet we're in luck because the quiz queen, Catharine O'Leary, is in the house to talk about how to create the magic with all that you're doing. She's the expert in creating an ideal client attraction system through the power of asking questions. Catharine has spent the last 3 decades, God bless, working with Fortune 500 companies, helping them build brands and grow businesses through market research, consumer insights. She helps entrepreneurs now create the ideal client attraction system by asking the best questions to attract the best clients. Catharine says every good conversation starts with a great question, not a sales pitch. So my question for you is, how do we make all this happen? Catharine O'Leary, quiz queen, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Or as my father used to say when I was in really big trouble, Catherine, Margaret, Mary O'Leary, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph above.
Oh my gosh, yes, indeed. How are you?
Yeah, so I'm Catherine O'Leary. I am the quiz queen. I have spent 3 decades in corporate working with the likes of Apple when Steve Jobs was there, and Pepsi and HP, and always in that. Basically, what I was, it was a very fancy translator. I asked consumers questions about what they wanted, what they needed, what they were struggling with, what they, desired, and translated that information into corporate ease, or basically new product development, marketing strategies and campaigns, sales conversations, that type of thing. And this is something that corporate does really well. They spend a ton of money on it. Is really understanding their end user, their consumer, their ideal client. For some reason, when entrepreneurs get started, we go straight from this marketing kind of, the conversation or this marketing hook straight into a sales call. And it feels like proposing marriage on the first date.
At the very least.
We forgot how to ask questions. We don't ask anything.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that asking questions is such a misnomer for most people? It's such a bizarre thing for them to do.
I think it has to do with the way that people have been taught how to set up their business, in the sense of the funnel that you're using, everything goes straight to that sales conversation. It takes a little bit of time to, actually have that conversation up front. I think people are afraid of that. Hey, I've got to get the money coming in. I got to get the revenue coming in. The thing is that you probably push away more ideal clients than you attract by being a little too, forceful at first. And, when you ask somebody for their credit card before you ask them, how you doing? Or how you feeling, what's going on in your business? It doesn't sit well. And then I think to your point of doing it differently, I think that it is on us as entrepreneurs to start a relationship and a conversation. It doesn't have to take 6 or 8 weeks. It can take up 60 seconds. So I'm not saying that you should be all of a sudden adding all this time to your upfront process. I'm just saying, take a breath and learn and get to know people a little bit while they get to know you. And there are tools out there like quizzes and assessments and so on that can help you do that very easily and quickly.
Yeah, that effective engagement of asking questions of and I was about to say slowing down the conversation, but to your point, it's not, you don't have to oh yeah, slow it down to the point where it's going to take months, but it's slowing it down, asking questions. And most people are afraid to ask those questions. They're afraid that it's going to take up too much time. They want to get right to the end results in their equation. So how do questions really attract the ideal clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think if we as business owners take the time to get super clear on what our ideal clients are struggling with. So I call it the 3 a.m. question. What is that 3 a.m. question that your ideal clients are waking up, either stressed out about, or they wish they could, I just wish I could figure out how to pay for like the kids' college, or I wish I could take everyone on a family vacation, or I need to figure out how to get unstuck. I need to, figure out how to go from 6 to 7 figures, whatever that is, whatever that 3 a.m. question is. If you know your ideal client, you know that question, you know what they're getting stuck on, use that to start the conversation. Use that as, hey, you know what? I've got an answer for you, but let's slow our roll here and let's find out what's that, like exactly what's going on with you. So to start with, I think, getting into that, let's talk about what's really bothering you and you're struggling with, and let's go forward from that point, as opposed to, this kind of really, neat or, gimmicky or whatever marketing hook that like is kind of more fluff than it is substance.
So how do you make sure, and this is really key, and I deal with a ton of entrepreneurs, and I know I hear their questions in my head. How do you make sure that you're not all fluff? How do you make sure that you're not the guy like going forward and going, oh, well, this conversation had no real substance or meaning? What do you do?
I think that if you start with the intention of making sure that you're putting your client first, so your ideal client, the person that you are really put on like this planet to serve, if you're putting their interests first, then you're asking with intention. You're not asking questions just for the sake of asking questions. I've seen those. You can smell them a mile away. It's like you don't care what the answer is. It's kind of like when you meet somebody and it's like, hey, how are you? And you keep walking. Like you obviously did not care how I was because you didn't wait for the answer, right? Like, so you want to be asking intentional questions. If you know your ideal client, you should, like, you by definition know their 3 a.m. question and know probably some of the steps that they need to take to actually go to that next level. And those are the kinds of questions that you can ask. So it's asking with intention. It's asking knowing how you're going to use the information. And it's asking not for the sake of just, hey, how's it going? And walking by. It's actually asking because you care and you need and you want to know, because it's going to help you serve them.
Asking with intention. I love that. And with that, when you ask, and the rest of the story is all too often we have the answer in our head before, or the next question before you answer. And it's such a horrible thing that happens in communication with people, is because they'll do that instead of waiting, pausing, and listening closely. So they've got to listen to the answer. They've got to pause. Are you suggesting that they have a list of questions, like if they're doing a verbal interview, have a list of possible questions, but not necessarily the questions that they're going to ask?
Yeah, if you are doing an in-depth interview for, say, market research or something along those lines, where it's like, hey, you know what, I've got a new mastermind coming up and I think that you'd be really good with it, but I'm kind of like, just putting it together. I've got a few questions for you. Let it flow a little bit, but also, like there are certain points of information that you need to come out of that to make it successful as a conversation for the business. But also, what can you give them so that it's successful for them? That what can they learn from that point of contact? So something like a quiz that's maybe online, and you're not having that immediate verbal two-way conversation. What's the coffee chat? Like when you sit down and somebody says, I have this problem, there are likely a couple of questions that you ask before you automatically go to the solution, right? So as a business person, you likely already have this in your head. You just need to put it in the format. But like if you help people go from 6 to 7 figures, then you usually start with, hey, you know what? I'm struggling getting to 7 figures. You usually probably start with, okay, well, where are you at now? What are your systems? What do you offer? What's your team dynamic look like? What are you struggling with most? And maybe it's, like there's a couple of different outcomes. Maybe it's mindset that coach is struggling with, or maybe it's systems, or maybe it's delegation and teamwork. And then how can you have a conversation to those, points? So maybe, when Brian comes in and does the quiz, it becomes apparent that it's mindset, because going from 6 to 7 figures can be mindset game, as you know, Paul. And so, you meet Brian where he's at. You meet him at mindset. Or maybe when Samantha comes in and she's doing it, it's all about systems, because her systems are a mess, right? And you need to fix the systems. Everyone needs the mindset. Everyone needs a delegation, and the systems is just, it's a way for you to meet them where they're at. And so that it's not a one solution fits all, even though you're talking to the same target audience. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. Only what I'm hearing is that there's different directions the conversation will go depending on the client that's in front of you. How do you help clients create this, a quiz format where it does create that different direction per client? How does that happen?
Yeah, so this is it's a little bit of the, behind the curtain. You're going to see behind the curtain, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because you've created the entire structure of everything to go into the different outcomes, if you will, already in place. It's just that your clients don't know that you've done that already, so they think you're a mind reader. When they go through and they answer, 8 questions, and all of a sudden they get to, oh, you're actually struggling with mindset. And it's like, oh my gosh, yes, of course. That is exactly what I'm struggling with. I still need systems and team help, but yeah, mindset is all about it. I mean, it's sitting down and really understanding. Again, it's a 3 a.m. question. And then what are those 5 to 8 questions in between that 3 a.m. question and the outcome that you're going to put them into? What helps them understand how to get, like, what's that self-discovery journey? What are those questions around? Where are you at now? What are you struggling with? What do you aspire to? So there's a gap. Okay, now I've heard you, because clients want to be heard. People want to be heard. I've heard you. I understand you. You're needing, a nutritional plan versus an exercise plan versus a sleep plan, or, whatever
Right.
you happen to be working with. So it looks like you're a mind reader, but you've done all the upfront work to make it look like you're the mind reader.
So as the quiz queen, you
Mhm.
guide us through, as an entrepreneur, I'm including myself, you guide us through the process of creating all those different channels of questions. Is that what I'm hearing? That
Yes.
it's not just one set of questions. Depending on the answer to question A, they may get a different question for question B.
You can do that. It's usually a lot simpler than that, honestly. Like, it's usually one track of questions that can get them, and then based on one certain question, how they answer it, that's the outcome that actually drives the whole engine behind. So it's actually a lot simpler than you think it is in the
Don't
back
tell
end.
them the
Don't
secret.
tell
Don't
don't
tell
tell that
them.
that's
Yeah.
like behind the curtain, Oz, don't tell anyone. You can make it complicated. You can get into some complicated, scoring systems and all the rest of it. But honestly, 90% of entrepreneurs, you don't need to be that complicated, but you do need to spend the time up front. It takes a little longer. It's not a weekend warrior kind of, production where, at the end of the weekend, I'm going to have a quiz. Usually you got to get really into that 3 a.m. question. And then what makes sense? Question 1 to question 2 to question 3. Do they make sense? Because I'm telling you right now, Paul, I swear, if I see another quiz that takes me through what's my dog's name, what am I wearing, and what car do I drive, and
Right.
then gives me a financial plan, I'm going to use all 4 names of that person, and I'm going to use it in the Irish accent.
So, so Why do they do that? I mean, what are they looking to accomplish? Do they really think that works?
Well, I think that there's a little bit of a disconnect in the intention and the fact that the questions are intended to be the conversation, right? The questions aren't just throwing at, like, I've seen survey or quizzes that are 15, 20 questions. That's too many for a
Right.
lead generation question. You don't have that kind of time. We've got 60 seconds at best. And you've got like less than that to catch their attention. So
What you're saying is 60 seconds for them to actually do the whole questionnaire.
yeah,
Otherwise, I know for me, I'd be like, next. It wouldn't happen. So
unless it's answering, excuse me, unless it's answering your 3 a.m. question, right? You're scrolling through and all of a sudden you see, oh, what's my, what am I getting stuck on to get to 7 figures? And you're like, oh my God, I woke up this morning thinking that. Like, I want to know the answer to that. Or how do I lose that last 10 pounds? Summer body time. Let's go.
Hey, now, wait a
like
second.
I was talking more myself, but and it only because it's Toronto and it's warm here today. So like
There you go.
we're all about that. The questions have to go together to make the story, and they have to make sense to the consumer as they're going through, and it's a journey. They like going from question 1 to question 2 makes sense. Like, going from what are you currently doing to what are your offers to what are your systems, that makes sense. It doesn't make sense to start with what are your systems and end with, how long have you been in business necessarily. So there's a process, there's a thought process behind the intention of each question and how they work together to create that journey to the end result that then you get to invite them to the next step with you, right? So, hey, you know what? You're all like, it's all about mindset for you. Here's a couple of things that you can do, walk away with an answer to the question. But if you want to learn more, then you invite them to your calendar. Then you invite them to your webinar or your masterclass or whatever that happens to be. Then they're engaged. They know, like, and trust you. You've heard them. They are far more, ready, willing, and able to be they are qualified, but they're ready to actually buy. So your conversion rates go up because you're talking to the right people at the right time with the right message, and you're ready to go from there, as opposed to just getting a whole bunch of tire kickers and freebie seekers that just waste your time.
You mean I'm not the only one?
No, you're not the only one. It's amazing, right? I mean, when people see a calendar, they just they go crazy. It's like Christmas.
So important with this whole process to dial it in, get it right with your messaging as to where you want to guide people, exactly who you want to be talking to, and then to sit down with you and go through the process of figuring out what are the key questions to be asking to lead the perfect person to your doorstep.
Ready to engage, ready to have that sales conversation, so you can actually shorten your sales cycle by asking, a 60-second quiz, because now you're not email nurturing for 8 weeks off of a checklist that they may or may not have actually read. So, you can make sure that you're getting those qualified leads, and it's all about the intention. It's all about the storytelling through questions. And then you've got all this data that you can use at the back end. So you can do press releases. You can do posts on, 80% of my ideal clients. So 80% of people that are trying to hit 7 figures are struggling with this. What do you think? Is that you? And you can, you have now you'll have content for days.
Yeah, so great content, great ability to engage your audience at the next level with all the data and information that you have. So what is the biggest result? What are we looking to? This takes some focus, some effort, intentionality. What do we look to get out of this? What is the end result with all this?
Yeah. So from my own experience, when I applied this to a network marketing business that I was running when I first started, and lead generation was my least favorite thing. I was throwing money at Facebook ads like there was no tomorrow. I was trying to be an SEO expert and I was spending hours on the calls with like the tire kickers and the freebie seekers. I actually implemented a quiz. I tripled my leads that became qualified leads, all qualified, which allowed me to double my conversion rates. So those, like, you know, once you and this is the other thing, everyone, please, 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 if you talk to everyone, you're talking to no one. You have got to get your target audience styled in. Otherwise, the quiz is like, it's going to give you everyone. And everyone means you're going to get a lot of tire kickers and freebie seekers. So you're not doing yourself or your business any favors by trying to talk to the masses, right? So really dialing in on your target audience and your target client, that's the key.
So increasing your conversion rate has everything to do with you're talking to the right person, and doing and utilizing this technique will increase the amount of people that you're able to talk to. So you're bringing in your prospects, and you're bringing in the right prospects that increases your conversion. So you end up with
right. And you've spent some time. Yeah. And you've spent some time for them to get to know, like, and trust you. So their know, like, and trust factor is higher after the quiz than before. So you're bringing in more people. They're more qualified. They're also, you know, higher up the kind of loyalty scale with you, if you will, or the know, like, and trust factor. You're an authority, you're the subject matter. They're like, oh my gosh, like, blew my mind. Yes, I'm all about trying to figure out mindset. I want to get on your calendar, or I can't wait for the next webinar, or, you know, whatever that is, so that, you know, you're building a fan, like a raving fans, right? You're building up your base of raving fans that are already like, just like, yes, give me what are you going to let me buy, kind of thing.
And I don't know whether you track this, but in my experience, not only does that create that loyalty clientele and the raving fan, only the next level sale and the higher level sales become a much more obvious, easy, almost automatic conversion with all those people that come through your funnel in this way. Because you from early on in your relationship, you start off with a real connection, and that carries through all the way through to the upper level, high ticket item sales that you might have, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've started the relationship like a relationship, not like some sort of weird, like, you know, Price is Right game. And you've had a two-way conversation. You've actually both agreed, yes, we fit. So that relationship, even at your $97 or whatever, or your $17 whatever,
Right.
even that relationship is stronger, so that, you know, they're like, oh yeah, I know Paul, like, this is like, that's a no-brainer. Yeah, I'm gonna get that. Or yeah, I want to sign up for that boot camp, or you know, go to that mastermind, or, you know, whatever that is. When you start with the respect of the relationship first, that's just going to make every conversation going forward that much easier for both of you.
Yep. Yeah, I find that, you know, with the advent of the internet and everything that we do online nowadays, that webinars are all well and good. Only when I'm able to either guide them from the webinar to a quiz of some sort, or do the quiz prior to meeting them on a webinar, or meeting them on some sort of other engagement, the magnitude of stick factor, if you will, the magnitude of staying factor for all of those leads increases exponentially. And it's
because they're already engaged, right?
Yes. And it's something that isn't, most companies, especially the small entrepreneurial companies, they don't look at to a significant level. And so they just look at, oh, well, I got X number of leads, and they kind of carry forward from there without looking at the long-term customer value or the lifetime customer value that person's bringing in. And that's huge.
And I get that sometimes it's hard to look at the lifetime value when you're like, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, I need to pay the mortgage. I get that. I get it. However, if you look at the number of people that are coming in and sticking, and then your conversion rates, even on that one webinar, I mean, you know, Paul, if you take one webinar and you increase your conversion rate 5%, or increase it by 10%, like how much like more valuable is that? Like, I mean, you're going from potentially 5 to 6 figures in one, one webinar or something like that. So like those are the kind of conversion rates. Like you can double your conversion rates. Like imagine that, because you've got all the right people in the room. So I always say, you know what, I would much rather be in a room of 100 people where 98 of them are already my ideal clients, and I'm just talking to them about how, we can work together, versus being in a stadium of 10,000 people and trying to find the 98.
Yeah,
right?
no
Like
question.
give me the 100 people every day.
I am a firm believer in building relationships and quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And with what you're talking about here and building those quizzes out, there's no question that you're building really good connection, which builds that quantity. I mean, that quality over that quantity. Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been in the situation where, you got 5 hours of sales calls ahead of you in the day, and you just know in your soul that they're not even one of them likely is going to convert, and you're going to spend your whole day talking to people that are wanting something for free or wanting just to bend your ear or whatever. That can be soul sucking. Like it can really, like it can send you under the covers and going back to corporate, which it almost did for me, but not enough podcasts or audiobooks in the world to get me back in the car. So this was the way that I figured out how to get out of it. And it can be so powerful if you just sit down and put the time up front, because then you can use it everywhere, right? You can drop your quiz like on your networking, on your speak to sell, on your webinar, before your webinar. JV partners can use it. You can be using it in your email list, basically anywhere a list or a link lives, your quiz can live. I mean, I dropped into the grocery store the other day because somebody said, what do you do? I'm like, hey, just go to quizformybiz.com. You'll see exactly what I do. That's what I build those.
Oh my gosh, that's
you
great.
Can use it everywhere.
So great lead gen, real easy to use, multi-purposeful uses for it. How do they get in touch with you? And for everybody here that wants to connect with you, that would love to talk to you more about how to make a quiz for themselves or anything else on quizzes, where would they reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can absolutely go to quizformybiz.com, and that will take you through my quiz, shockingly, and that will get actually to my calendar or my webinar, but you can also go to CatharineO'Leary.com, and all my information is there as well.
Quiz for my
biz.
Quizformybiz.com. Got it. We are definitely going to follow up on making that happen. Everybody here listening, go to quizformybiz.com and make it happen for you. Catharine O'Leary, we are listened to all around the world. Any last comments that you'd like to, tips of wisdom that you'd like to share with everybody?
Yeah, just ask, don't guess.
Oh, simple but powerful. Ask, don't guess. Definitely a great mantra with everything that we do in life, not just in business. Great to see you.
You as well.
Great to talk to you. For all of you that are listening, this is absolutely a topic of conversation. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to increase your lead gen. You want to increase the connectivity with any of your prospects. This is the way to do it. Reach out to Catharine O'Leary. She's got the answers for you, and she can help you make it all happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast. Thanks.
For everyone here, we're on a journey together. This is only the beginning. Keep staying close by. The Maverick universe is expanding by leaps and bounds. We look for you to help us do that. So continue to share this podcast wherever possible. Share it with friends, share it with family. Reach out to me on Facebook, on Instagram, and every place else you might be listening. And make sure that we are connected on a deep level as well. This is Paul Finck. This is the Mavericks Do It Different podcast. Till next time, everyone.
Thanks for being here today. As our gift to you, be sure to go to themaverickuniverse.com, where you can download your free copy of the Maverick Manifesto. Until next time, Dare to be different. Dare to be a Maverick.